I dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high, life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die.
I want to ask you a question, and it's a fairly simple question. Do you have a problem with musicals? If you do, don't worry, you're not alone. Loads and loads of people have a problem with musicals. Personally, I love them, but I ask particularly because Les Miserables is just coming out on DVD and Blu-ray. And I've spoken to a couple of people who missed it in the cinema. And I've said, well, listen, now's your chance to catch up with it. It's a really great film. They said, no, we don't want to. Why not? Well, because it's a musical and I have a problem with musicals. Now, this kind of baffles me. Firstly, because I don't have any problem with musicals at all, and I really, really like Les Miserables. It's a great, big, sweeping, operatic epic. It's got melodrama, it's got action, it's got romance, it's got Hugh Jackman being terrific. Yes, it does have Russell Crowe demonstrating that he can't sing a note, but hey, the movie hangs together anyway, and it manages to do that rarest of things, to take a stage production and do something genuinely cinematic with it, largely by use of extreme close-ups and great, big, wide, sweeping panoramic vistas, the two things that theatre can't give you, because watching something through a proscenium arch is pretty much everything is a mid-shot. So I really like Les Miserables. I think it's a terrific adaptation. But I can't sell it to anyone who's got a problem with musicals. And their problem is always the same thing. I just don't get how it is that people can be walking along the street and suddenly burst into song. Where does the music come from? How come they all know when to dance? How does it work? Now, there's always the exception. The exception is generally cabaret. So, okay, I can accept cabaret. Why? Well, serious subject matter, it's got Nazis. Yeah. The Sound of Music has got Nazis, but they won't buy that. Actually, the reason they think it's okay is because in cabaret, the songs are taking place within the cabaret. They're part of a stage show. Therefore, there's no imaginative leap. There's a reason that they're there. There's an orchestra, there's a stage, there's curtains. There's a reason why people are bursting into song. And from cabaret, you move on to Bob Fosse's other movie, All That Jazz, which I think is actually his masterpiece. Well, okay, they'll buy All That Jazz. Why? Because the musical sequences are dream sequences. They're fantasy sequences. They're taking place in the mind of a guy whose life is literally falling apart, is unraveling before him. Therefore, once again, there's no necessity to make that leap of faith which says, okay, I can buy into people walking down the street and bursting into song. See, the strange thing for me is that cinema has really always been a form of musical. It comes out of musical theatre. Chaplin, one of the great innovators of cinema, came out of musical theatre. All those movies before the invention of sound were basically musicals. They were melodramas, melody and drama. The films would be played silently, and all the interpretation, all the work that was done by dialogue later on was done by musicians. They were basically musicals. You look back at the history of cinema to a great musical like Singing in the Rain, a film about the invention of sound, in which song and dance is used to discuss how it was that silent cinema became sound cinema. I've got loads of musicals that I've watched time and time again. I mean, whether it's My Fair Lady or Oklahoma or the Rocky Horror Picture Show or the Little Shop of Horrors, these are movies that I can go back to time and time again. They work for young audiences and they work for old audiences. It seems to me that there's no greater leap in accepting that somebody can burst into song and dance, and accepting that a man can fly, or accepting that Wolverine can have claws. That's what cinema does. My question to you is very simple. If you have a problem with musicals, if you're one of those people that says, I just don't like films when people burst into song, is there any other genre that troubles you in the same way? I mean, do you mind when science fiction movies have the sound of explosions in space because you know it's really silent in space? Do you mind when people travel through time? Because you know what? That doesn't happen in real life. Do you mind when people are possessed by devils and levitate? Because you know what? That probably doesn't happen in real life either. How come you can deal with all of that but not with someone just having a song in their heart?